Hey everyone, welcome back to another Art of the Game. This is where a bunch of GMs talk about our experiences and our viewpoints on different topics. And originally, this is the brainchild of Woody here. So, Woody, why don't you tell us what we're talking about today?
Yeah. Okay. So one thing that I think, particularly Marks and I can relate to this, given how long we've been doing this, is there's a point when you're starting out and you're maybe not confident in what you can and can't do as a game master. I think more so when you're young, when you do this when you're a kid, but there is a question of like, what is that social contract? How far does it extend? How much power do you have? A wise man once said that supreme executive power derives from a mandate from the masses, and that is absolutely true in the case of RPGs as much as it is in a fantasy political system where you meet every other Thursday with bilateral votes to determine what happens, and you get all the the mud farmers involved. But anyways, an anarcho-syndicalistic commune. So. But anyways, so what is the limits of your authority, right? Because the players have elected you essentially. Like you may have decided I'm going to run a game, and I'm going to invite people to play. But this role, you were still selected, whether they chose to join the group or you were simply part of a group, and they said, "Okay, you're the game master," and that is how it is sometimes, where you have a group of people that want to play and somebody has to do it. So they just elect somebody, but you've been given this authority and power. What is that power? Right. And the first job is to come up with the campaign, create a world, figure out what kind of game you're going to run. Perhaps you're even deciding what the game is going to be, whether it's Call of Cthulhu, D&D, Palladium Fantasy, Paranoia, whatever it is, right? And traditionally, you play the game the GM wants to play, but sometimes the players make that decision. So, chime in, gentlemen. What is the power of the game master? What is your authority?
Well, there's the power that is invested in you, which is absolute, and if you use it that way, you will be hated. So
that is true.
I believe it's the power of Grayskull. That's my power.
Yeah. I was listening to a political commentator today talk about the like recently Joe Biden pardoning his son, and he brought up the very point you made, where yes, you have this power, you're allowed to do it, and it is okay that you do it, but there are like norms and behaviors on what's an overreach, right?
Yeah,
and it was, that one was potentially an overreach. It made sense in the context of it, but it's still an overreach, right? Like
right. He has the authority to do it, right?
Correct. Like a game master can say your character is dead, and you can do that, but you don't.
And it's very awkward when that happens. I've actually had that happen.
Yeah.
the guy gets attacked, the player gets attacked by the NPC, and the guy's just like, well, his fist goes behind you and hits you in the back and kills you. And the player's like, there's nothing I can do about it. And he's like, no, you're dead. I'm like, this is so awkward to be sitting here watching this right now.
Yeah, exactly. And that is absolutely an overreach. Like the power you have is like, you're setting the tone for the campaign, right? So they want you to come up with a story, and therefore you have a right as a game master to set limits on what fits in that story, right? So like, if there is a problem within the group, right, the GM can actually preemptively eliminate some of these issues by saying these characters are not allowed, right? Like, you don't have to allow people to have a necromancer and a paladin together in the party. You do not have to allow that, right?
And more so than just party conflicts like that, you don't even have to allow a summoning class. And I actually feel for that sometimes, because summoning classes slow down the game dramatically, and it's very annoying sometimes. Mm-hmm. And I could see some GMs being like, no, you can't play that class because it's going to slow it down for everyone. And that's perfectly fine. You have that power,
Mm-hmm.
It actually not a bad idea, by the way. Like,
well, it depends on the players. Like, some players can play those things well,
quickly.
Yeah, they know the rules really well.
Yep.
Well, I see the role of the GM is more like there's different terms for GMs, right? Different games.
Yeah.
Which are, I think, are a nice touch sometimes. And I always like the one that a lot of Powered by Apocalypse people use, where it's Master of Ceremonies or MC. Because I really feel like that's kind of what you're doing. Like, you're hosting a party, you're the master of the ceremony, this event, and you set the rules. Like, nobody gets naked in my party, and nobody break my stuff.
Yep.
But no, you help set that rules, and you're taking on certain extra responsibilities because of it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no streakers. I mean, unless it's that kind of party. I don't know. Yeah. But and I feel like that's a good mentality to at least get started in, because I think the word game for when you're a kid, game master, makes you feel like, yes, I am the master. Dungeon master. Yeah.
Well, like some of the things you are there to do is, like, let's say there's a rules dispute. You're there to make a decision about, because you have to keep the game going, right? And so people can get caught up in interpretation, because two people can read a passage and have the exact same, like, or actually have completely different conclusion on what it means. And in some cases, it's this guy's passionate because one interpretation favors his character, and that there's an outcome that they definitely want. And so, like, your job is to resolve disputes. Your job is to make rulings, right? On and then once you made that ruling, it's that way going forward, right? But that's what you've been elected to do, is to make these decisions, because the players need somebody to do that. The game doesn't happen unless you have those roles filled.
I think there's basically two basic responsibilities of a game master. And like we said, your power as a game master is absolute, actually. So, but in terms of being a good game master, you basically have two game-related things I think you have to do. You have outside game-related things when you deal with players that are being a pain and stuff. But inside the game, you have your world building. And it doesn't mean you're building an entire world, but it means even if it's just a dungeon crawl, you're building that dungeon, right?
Yeah.
So you're world building to some degree, and you're narrating. And those are basically the two things that you do. And I guess you have to know the rules, obviously.
Yeah.
And even then, if you're into GMing and you feel like you don't know the rules well enough, you don't really need to know them too well, to be honest, to start GMing. In my opinion,
will get better.
Anyway. You will get better, and as long as someone's there who does know the rules, they will help you out, right? Mm-hmm. And storytelling is a skill. It really is a skill, and I've seen very good storytellers that don't know the rules well, but they're so good storytellers, no one cares. So yeah, I think that's basically the two I guess three is you're dealing with rules, like what he said. If there's disputes, you're having to solve those disputes. You're narrating, whether you're narrating the scene, the NPCs, what's happening, anything like that. And the other one I said that my brain has now farted.
Yeah, I'm looking for my prop. There's a book I've got here that has just stepped away from me. Well, okay, yeah, here it is.
Yes, I said the three things. I forgot one of them.
Well, let's say you've got a game like this.
World building, sorry. Yeah. Yes, and world building.
The Rift's role-playing game, which two of us have played, one of us have not. So this game, this is the poster child for power creep, quite frankly. It's awesome, but the game was built at different scales, right? Because people think it was power creep. It's really not power creep. It's like the game can do different levels of power. You can play gods in this game, and the game is set up to do that. You can also play just regular normal mortals, and the game is set up to do that, and there's different levels in between. And there's a lot of games like that actually out there where like the idea of game balance, it does not mean every character is the same. It means that characters are good at what they're good at, right? And you need to make sure as a game master that everybody is participating within the area of what they're trying to be. And you can have that badass warrior and have just a weak scholar or something, and it's fine. But like in a game like this, where the game is very big and there's many options, you cannot run the game with every option being on the table, right? And that there's a lot of games like that. And even, like Pathfinder is a good example of it. Actually, Pathfinder 1 is a classic example of this, right? And so the GM has to be able to set the standard of like what is allowed, because you have this idea in your mind, like, I want a certain kind of game, you want a certain kind of challenge level for the players. And, if you're looking to play a god level campaign, some games can do that, but maybe you don't. and you have to be able to say, no, we're having these things and not these things. And that's one of the things that your job is to set those standards for what the campaign's going to be.
I can't emphasize enough how important world building is as a GM, and part of that is like what world are they going to be in? What are people like? Is it dark? Is it heroic? Is it mythical? Is it like all that kind of stuff is going to drive all your other decisions too. Like if you're playing a thing where most people are just normal people and they're struggling going through the hero's journey from nothing to something, you're probably not going to allow flying classes, for instance, because that would be very strange.
So, well, in a game like D&D, flight is very powerful, and it can be game breaking if everybody can do it. The bad players can just fly over every threat, and so it needs to be. I can see why they limited it the way they did. I don't agree with it, but making it a concentration ability makes sense in the context of the kind of challenge they were trying to create.
Just have lots of archers, hidden archers.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think DC 20 does it really well, which is you get ancestry points, and if you only want to spend one ancestry point, you can kind of glide. You can kind of hover a little. 2, you can glide a bit. 3, you can have limited. They actually make it. Yeah. If you want to spend all your ancestries, get no other bonus, then sure, okay, you can fly, right? But I thought that was kind of interesting. But to that point, you have the power to set the stage, and that's probably the most important thing, especially starting out. Like if you're going to play a grim, dark fantasy setting, and you're going to this town with these poor walking around, and then your players show up as a walking cat, a walking frog, a tin man, and a goblin. Yeah. It's going to break everything. Like you have the power to say, no, we're not going to do that. Right. And you have to remember, you as a GM are going to be putting 5 times more effort than all the players. So, they have to respect what you're doing, as part of that. Now, you also have to play a game that they want to play, obviously.
Yeah.
You're all going to come to a decision, but they should have a certain respect that you're putting a lot of effort into it. And so you get to make some of these decisions. It's just how it is.
And you also get to choose what rewards are handed out. You're the one who hands out experience points. The players don't decide their experience points. You're the one that hands out treasure, determines how wealthy the players are going to be, and like what magic items are going to be made available. I had a player one time. It's funny. A lot of my stories of the horror stories about the same person, but like it's
at least they're great stories.
Some of them are. So he viewed the game as simply being like so riffs, right? This game is full of just a vast quantity of tech gear and magic items and artifacts, and all these things are spread throughout all the books. There isn't like one central source like there is in D&D, but like he saw all these things as like his birthright, like they're out there for him to get, and they're just there, and he should be able to go get any one of them. And he basically saw the Game Master as the impediment to his glory and greatness, and that like he's entitled to all these things, and I'm actively preventing him from getting them. Like, no, that is not what this is happening. It's like the GM can't just simply let you have everything. You're trying to create fun. You're trying to create steady advancement. You're trying to create like a good story, and you're not going to get there by suddenly going, okay, well, yes, you've just killed Thor and you get to have his hammer. Like that's, and that actually happened to a guy.
Pathfinder has that issue too. Yeah. It's very common in Pathfinder campaigns to be like, okay, you're at a busy village now. You can get anything you want. The Pathfinder has a 1E anyway, has a very defined way of pricing items, right? Magic items. And so people tend to just be like, well, I'm going to get this exact thing that I built my class for. And it's just kind of like, if you're playing a campaign where you want to do that, that's fine. But if a lot of people don't like that. And that's fine. You as a game master have the ability to say, this isn't going to be the type of campaign to where you can have whatever magic item that you can get the perfect build that you're going for. And magic items, will be there, but they're not going to just be anything you want. And and that's fine. In fact, I suggest don't using canned magic items a lot. I know that might not go well with a lot of people. I change it up a little bit, add a little bit, add a curse that's not really a curse, just like something a little different maybe that has a little consequence. Add make it, you can use magic items to flavor to something. Like a lot of people will take a monster from a monster manual, and I don't know about you guys, but rarely it ends up being the exact same monster, just like in the monster manual. You're usually using it to flavor something else a lot of times. I would do that with magic items too.
I think along this topic too, I'm going to rip off of one of the principles. I like the GM section in Monster of the Week. I think it has some good advice. And one of the principles that they have is along this theme is sometimes give the players exactly what they earned rather than all they wanted. And I think that's a nice approach.
That's a nice way of looking at it.
But do that in the background because they don't necessarily like being judged on that basis. Don't tell them that to their face. Yeah.
Don't give them the secret formula. Don't be you did this thing, therefore you get this thing.
They do not want to know, even though they may say they do, but they really do not want to know how the soup is made. They don't know one of the ingredients, So on the monster stat blocks, you can change them, right? Like there's and sometimes these stat blocks for some of these creatures in these games, they imply something more than what's there, and so there's like other ways to interpret it because the designers can't think of every scenario that's going to come up, and you can throw some interesting creatures out there, and maybe the one that they've encountered is a little different, and you do have to do that because some of your players are going to memorize those monster stat blocks, and they're going to know what the monsters are, and at that point you have to change it up, and you can absolutely do that, and they may get frustrated, but again, you have the power to make those changes. I had a creature that I was setting my players up against, which I made it clear to them that it was different because it had a different skin color than the one that they were used to in the book, and it worked a little differently, and it turned into because like just mechanically, this group of players would have it would not have been a threat to them if it was done default, but by just tweaking the stats just a little, I made what was a creature by itself was not much of a threat to them became a huge problem. Just because it's supposed to it's a weird creature where it's supposed to split into duplicates of itself when you hit it with a magic weapon, which in theory should not be a big deal. They'll just use normal swords, but you just tweak the rules just a little bit, and suddenly this creature, which there's one of them, suddenly now they're fighting 8, and it's getting out of hand, and that's super fun because they shouldn't know what to expect. It kind of falls into the category of the challenge one we just talked about, but like the which is great if Mark's heresies are now in a different order, but you're welcome. But like you
go hunt them down, find them all.
Yeah, find the Easter eggs. But like that is an important element of it is you do have to keep them on their toes, and that's what they want. It's not fun if they actually know what's coming.
Yeah, I don't know how much it's in to current D&D. I just never hasn't come up like with Curse of Straw and stuff. But like when I did D&D a lot with 3.5 and stuff, I would use templates, different templates, and put them on monsters and stuff to just mix up their abilities and keep people guessing what was happening. Because your rules lawyer, person who's read all the books will know automatically.
I fall for this all the time. They throw like a blob up to me. I'm like, okay, don't use these at damage types. It has about 34 hit points, and I'm like, I try not to do it because I know it's annoying.
You don't have to put up with a rules lawyer either. By the way, the GM is the rules lawyer. That's the point. And if you got a player
you're
who's
not a rules lawyer, you're a rules god.
That's true. But if you got a guy who is just throwing the rules in your face, no, you have to do it this way. This is what the game says. That person's ruining everybody's good time. And if you ruin the game master's good time, there's no game.
Yeah. Well, usually they'll do like Greg was talking about. They just keep it to themselves, but they know, and they made a game a little bit, even if they don't mean to.
Yeah.
It's hard not to, but
If you mix it up, then you don't have to worry about it. And it's surprising.
I really suggest trying to mix it up a little bit. At least add one thing that's different, something like that. But I was going to say something else, but now I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, it's my fault. I probably interrupted you. You can,
No.
Yeah, you can get mad at me and say bad things about me behind my back.
I think cool. So. Another thing that Game Master should do, which we've tap danced around, I think already, is just like what a computer game doesn't do is you can customize the story, even if you're using a module or whatever. You can customize the story, the game, the monsters to your players, to the unique combination of players and their personalities and their goals, which can be very rewarding when you do that.
And
by the way,
AI will ever be able to replace us.
I'll never say never, but probably.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. When I see the AI programs right now, I feel quite secure in my job.
Well, I love AI. It's great. In case you take over, remember I said that.
AI is garbage in, garbage out. It can only copy, so it can never be unique and creative, right?
Yeah.
But like the other thing I was going to mention is if you're using a virtual tabletop, it's very tempting just to pull in a monster and use it. I actually suggest, even if you roll dice not in real life, but with the virtual tabletop, just roll basic a d20 and add the bonuses yourself a lot of times, because that'll make people realize, oh, okay, it's not just the typical monster. He's doing the math himself.
Yeah.
And I just suggest doing that in general. I like using virtual tabletops. I don't like using the stat blocks in them because it does become a bit too defined and monotonous. You as the GM have the power to change every single thing, and your players should know that.
Yeah. And you can also enforce whether or not to use real dice, right? As opposed to digital rollers. Because I've looked at digital rollers and I don't like what I see. Every time I study the stat spread on those things, it's not like the real thing. And they don't come up with the same kind of results. And the advantage to having actual dice is everybody's on the same standard. It keeps it fair. Everybody's playing by the same rules, right?
Not all dice are weighted the same, though. I've tested it.
I believe you, but like you do have a right to enforce that standard.
Some dice have more than 120 on them. I'm just saying.
I'm not using those. Well, let's see where the joke being for those of us is I have a die that I found that it's got all 1s and 20s. And I have been selling those and people love it. But yeah, no, it's it's good. Well, so yeah, like you, one of your jobs as a GM is to keep it fair, right? Now, that doesn't mean that everybody's going to get the same fair shake, because it's all dependent upon the experience they're looking for and the experience they create for themselves, because the players' decisions have consequences, and they very much have an impact on what happens to them. But you have to be fair, you have to be honest, and you have to give everybody the same opportunities, and not that can be interpreted in many ways, but everybody has the same opportunity to have the same good time. And so like you as a GM, that is one of your roles, as well as the power, right? Is to make sure that you can shut someone up to make sure that someone else is not interrupted, right? Like you have to do these things. You have the right to control that sort of thing, because there's always going to be somebody who's louder than everybody else, and you have to make sure that people aren't being drowned out. Go ahead, Greg. Like I'm doing. I
actually suggest doing a rule where the person who speaks the least gets priority if there's ever conflicts on who's going. That's why whenever Mark says something on these, we kind of let him go, because we know he likes to listen.
And you can set the house rules.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was going to say something else. I don't have that bias against digital rollers. I'm totally okay with them. As a programmer myself, I can't be against them. But but yeah, you can totally set those rules with using real dice or not. I've done it in the past. And even then, I like to sometimes just have everyone. I've even had it to where I told people not to use the systems in the virtual tabletop. Have your own character outside of it on your own, and just use the virtual tabletop to roll your dice so everyone sees the dice roll too. Like, you can do whatever you want there.
Well, for me, I think that like if I can't trust my players, like we're playing over Zoom or something, I can't trust my players to roll honestly, we shouldn't be playing, right?
Yeah,
and
for sure.
so it's like that's part of why, like, I'm, why when I played with you, Greg, I insisted on rolling, because I've, and as I was very honest about my fumbles.
Yeah.
But like, no, it's like I think that's okay. Like,
it can be helpful.
Usually my policy, by the way. Do whatever you want, but
yeah, with like Mythras, we're playing that. it can be kind of handy because there's different levels of success, and people who are new to it are like, what did I get? And we all see it. We can explain what it is, and that helps a little bit.
That system would be really hard otherwise, to be honest.
It would be, because it's not set up like Call of Cthulhu with the different columns.
You see the numbers. Yeah.
So boy, this
did we see all the powers?
Yeah, well, I'm sure there's a few we missed. We have the powers of Grayskull, but yes. You can hand out special abilities. Okay, you can do whatever, but it's like the players have to feel that you're being fair and honest, and they have to be able to trust. And as long as you have their trust, you can do anything.
But and I have said multiple times that I fucked up. I'm sorry. It's already happened though, so let's move on.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to admit to you have made a mistake. No, absolutely. Yeah. But it's like, like at the core of this, I think, it's like you have to earn the trust of the players. They have to know that you're going to be fair and honest, and that you're not going to abuse your authority, and that what you're doing is trying to create a good time. And as long as they're confident in that, sky's the limit. But don't overreach, don't abuse, right? Like, keep it fair. Make sure that you resolve disputes. Make sure you make rulings. When you make your rulings, stick to them, and also make it clear that, okay, we're going to make a ruling here. We're going to look it up. We're going to do better next time. That's always a good one. But it's like, you're there to make decisions. That's your job, is to make decisions, set the story, set the tone. You're the first name on the call sheet. You're setting the tone for the game, and like that's what you have been elected to do. And so do it with confidence, and don't let them don't let the players intimidate you into what they want. Yeah. That's not why they asked you to do it.
Do we have a first time GM episode? I think we do, right?
Yeah, that was our first one.
Yeah. So go check that one out too, because that one will probably give you a lot of good advice that's similar to this.
Yep.
If you're looking for that.
And new players too, introducing new players.
That's our big our big long one is basically a podcast episode.
That's right. That's what that was. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yes. No. There might be some reason to cut that one up at some point, but I think we got an episode.
I think so. There's lots of stuff. Yep. All right. Well, thanks everyone for watching. And what do you think the powers of GM are? What would you let us know in the comments? We will comment back. And
they can be very specific.
They can be specific if you got stories, whatever. It's all good. And grieve me.
Lasting
is it the power of Grayskull? Oh, that too. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks everybody for watching, and until next time.
Bye.
When the dice roll high, we touch the sky. But when they crash, it's a belly laugh. Genre play, lighting the way. Our tales unleash the wild rampage.